Everyone has a bright light inside of them that deserves to be seen by the world. That's why it's time to shine the light on the extraordinary who are accomplishing phenomenal things. This is the Shine Out Loud Show with Lillian Ogbogo.
Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever in the world you are. Welcome to another episode of the Shine Out Loud Show. And tonight we have, minus the weird gremlins we just had, a very incredible woman who started off as a journalist and accidentally became a career advisor and a career change expert. Now, I don't know how you accidentally do anything, but let's find out, because I have the incredible Mildred Talabi on the show tonight. Mildred, hi, how are you?
Hi, Lillian. I am wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for having me on the show.
You are so welcome. You're so welcome. So I'm actually glad that you can make it and you've had time to join us today.
Oh, thank you. I am too, and I'm looking forward to this conversation with you.
Awesome. So we started talking about that your background, you came from a background as a journalist and you were working for The Guardian. And you mentioned that you accidentally became a career advisor. So how does a journalist accidentally become a career advisor?
So what happens is you have a midlife crisis really early. Well, it was something like that. So what happened? So my background is journalism. I studied creative writing and film studies at uni. Went on to do journalism on a postgraduate scholarship, actually, from News International. But it was a little before that. While I was working, one of my jobs was working as an assistant editor at a magazine called BFM. It's an urban filmmaker magazine. That's I don't think it's around anymore, but it was a really great starting ground. Right. But I was assistant editor of the magazine, and as part of my role, in addition to putting together the monthly publication, I also had to recruit people and do office management, things like that. So I used to get a lot of people write to me with CVs and cover letters wanting to work for us or do work experience with us. And I think after a while, I started to notice a pattern that pretty much 90% of the CVs and cover letters that I received were simply rubbish, to put it bluntly. You know, they were not very good at all. And I thought, my goodness, people are sending these things out there looking to get a job, and they're wondering why they're not succeeding because it's just not good enough.
Right.
So yeah, my entrepreneurial mind kind of kicked in, and I thought, you know, if there's one thing I'm good at, it's writing and it's editing. You know, bringing out my red pen and crossing out things in people's words. So I said, maybe I can do this for people just on the side while I pursue my media career, and we'll see how that goes. So that was literally how I started. I got my brother to design a flyer for me, and I was in business, you know, doing CV makeovers on the side. And
right.
Yeah, fast forward 12 years later, it's still going, you know, and even bigger and stronger than I ever imagined at the time.
Okay, so, you know, let's kind of stay with journalism, because I'm going to come back to the careers advisory stuff and how you really got going and where it is right now. But let's look at journalism. Based on, you know, there seems to be an explosion with social media, and everyone almost has journalistic rights to report and share. Is current journalism what you thought it would be?
Do you know what? In this is gonna date me, you know, but in the days that I studied journalism and I went into journalism, it was an actual profession that not that many people can do. You know, so in terms of, and I mean that in terms of social media has really, it's messed up a lot for a lot of journalists, to be quite frank, you know, because people are out there writing, doing blogs and, you know, reporting on stories and doing video blogs and radio shows and all these things, which were traditionally something that was reserved for the media section, whether it's broadcast media or print media, etc. So social media has, in a sense, messed up journalism in one sense, but in another, it's strengthened those who are actually trained as journalists, because it's made them have to up their game, you know, because there's so much competition out there. And these days, if something happens, you can probably find out about it faster on Twitter than you would reading a news website or something like that. So journalism today looks very different, and journalists today have had to adapt. But I actually came out of the industry before all this change set in, because as I mentioned earlier, I did have an early midlife career crisis where I just kind of changed lanes myself,
Right.
you know. So yeah, it's things have changed, but I think it's a good thing in a way, because so many more people are empowered now to produce content. So there's more diversity in the content that you can have access to, and it's taken away some of the elitism that used to exist, I guess, in the media. So in that sense, it's a good thing. So I'm pro change that way.
Okay. And I like that because, like you said, it allows for more diversity and it allows for people like me to have platforms of our own and share stories and content that are important to us. And but you're not just a journalist, you're not just a CV expert, you're also an author. And people think, okay, so that's everything she does. But you also ended up co-creating a raw food brand with your husband. What was the draw around raw food?
That oh gosh, yeah. So I'm the kind of person they have a term for it, portfolio career, but is I literally I like to follow my passions, you know.
Right.
So if it's inside, I want to get it out. So that's kind of, so on my CV, you know, it looks a bit jagged, but it's okay because I'm living the life that I want to live in that sense, you know. But so the raw food business, how that came about, that was actually my husband. So he got into, because he heads up PE in a primary school, so he's very much into fitness and health and that kind of thing. But now, back then, it was something he was still discovering. He came across the raw food movement, which again is a much bigger thing today than it was back then, because we're going back to around 2009, so about 10 years ago is when we
Right.
actually started the business. So it was, he discovered about this whole raw food and eating fruits, nuts, fruits, nuts, vegetables and seeds, etc., in their natural state, about how that's really good for your body and all of this. So he got into it because he was looking to do football, and he found out that this was a really good way to kind of boost your body and keep you young and agile and all the rest of it. And I was like, yeah, this is good for you, but me, I'm not interested in, you know, I kind of like my jollof rice and a bit of chicken with it. Thank you very much. You know, so I did not come on board willingly, but as I watched him do it, and what happens when you're close to someone, you live with them, naturally, their habits start to rub off on you. So I started to know he was making, and he's a really good cook. He gets that from his mum, so he could even do raw food. He made that taste amazing. So he was making these smoothies that were from heaven, and, you know, amazing cakes without using any cake ingredient, raw food cakes. So I was
Right.
like, okay, you got to tell me a bit more about this, you know. So then I got interested, and then we realized that actually there was a lot of equipment that we needed that we didn't have, and they were quite expensive at the time.
Right.
So we things like the Vitamix Champion Juicer Dehydrator, you know. So at the time there was a grant that was going from an organization called BBI. So they were doing a grant to support young people in business who were a lot younger then.
Right.
And it wasn't a loan, it was a grant. So you could get up to about 1,500, you know, to start up your business. So we thought, how about we apply for this grant so we can buy the equipment we need to fund our lifestyle? But because we had to do a business out of it as well, we said, okay, we're going to start running raw food courses, you know, make that a
Okay.
business and see how that goes. And then that's exactly what we did. Bought the equipment we needed, started running raw food workshops, and the response was amazing, you know, in terms of people could not get enough of it, you know. They were interested, they wanted, we did a food store one time in at an exhibition in Croydon, and we had queues going out the door, you know. Everyone
Wow.
else had cooked food, etc., and we were there making juices and smoothies, and literally non-stop all day that people were queuing up for what we had. So it was really good. Those were good times, but it was hard work. you know, and the washing up drove me crazy. 'Cause afterwards, we had to take everything home to our little flat, and we had to wash and wash and wash, and it just drove me crazy. I was like, oh my God, there's no way I'm gonna be doing this with my life. You know, so pretty much after a while, and plus I had the CV thing going on at the same time, and I had all these. We both had a full-time jobs as well, so
Right.
this was a side hustle. So over time, it kind of just filtered out, but not before we'd won some awards from it, and you know, and really got. There was a time we thought we were going to create the raw food McDonald's, you know, so we wanted to create a fast food type business, but only with healthy eating raw foods thing, and we were looking in that direction, but ultimately the passion wasn't strong enough to sustain it for the long term, certainly not on my side,
Right.
you know, and then we got carried away with all the other things we were doing, and then it sort of fizzled out along the way. So that's how that one ended, you know, but at least we tried it. You know?
And that's the thing. It's, you know, you tried it and you discovered some great things about it. So my question around, you know, trying that and doing it with your partner, your husband, while working on it, how did you manage the aspect of your business relationship and your personal relationship?
Oh, listen, honest transparency time. At times it was hard, because those times I would turn around and I say to him, because we work well together because our strengths complement each other. But at the same time, there's times I used to remember specifically, I turn around and say to him, I am not your PA, I am your wife. You know, so it's like, it's keeping that balance between, okay, now we're on work mode and we're business partners, and now we're off work mode and we're husband and wife. Sometimes the boundaries weren't clear, you know, and it got mixed up a lot. So when we're supposed to be having husband and wife time, we're treating each other like we're business partners, and we're doing, yeah. So it's just, we needed to have that clear boundary. A lot of the time it worked, but those times it was really like, okay, listen, we can't, this is not just a business relationship. Yes, we're in business together, but we can hire a PA or something to do all these things, so I don't feel like I am, because I did my administration. I'm better at admin than he is, so I did all of that side of stuff, where he was more the face of the company, and he does, you know, he's like great in front of the camera and did the videos, etc. But there was times I was filming, I'm holding the camera up, you know, doing non-stop video shoots, and you know, and all of that kind of stuff. So it's really like, for us, when it worked well, it really worked well. But there's just those times when you're tired and it's the end of the day, and you just want your husband, you don't want your business partner, you know. And it was, over time we learned how to work better, but there was times it was definitely a struggle. Yeah.
You know what, Mildred, I just love your honesty. You're like, I'm not your PA. Go and hire a PA. Your life will be easy.
Yeah. Absolutely. And the PA will be cheaper as well than all the time and blood and sweat and tears I'm putting into it. You know? Yeah, definitely, you know. But I think the good thing is, as I said, we both knew our strengths and our weaknesses and how it worked well together. So that is what made it work. You know, if we were both similar or the same, then it would have worked as well. But we both had our strengths and weaknesses, so that really made us a good team. But it also, it's just the boundaries issue.
Right. Okay, so we're talking about career changing, we're talking about social media, we're talking about your story. So when we look at social media, has social media changed the way we job hunt, and how can we tweet our way to a brand new job, or in some cases tweet our way to losing a job?
Oh yes, no, social media definitely plays a part in it. Funny you mentioned tweet, because I'm falling more and more out of love with Twitter. You know, in fact, I abandoned it probably for about a year or two. I hardly tweeted of anything, because I think with social media, it's good to focus. There's so many of them, and if you try and keep up with all of them, you're going to drive yourself crazy or spend all your time online and not have a real life outside of it. So I think it's good to focus on maybe a number, maybe 2, 3, depending on you, that are where you feel like you have the strongest audience or the strongest connection with, and stay there. Yes, Twitter is no longer one of mine. So mine is LinkedIn, definitely number one, Instagram, and then Facebook. So those 3 I use the most. Now and again, I dip into Twitter. But anyway, the question isn't about me. So let me go back to the... I'm just throwing that one out as a freebie. You know, but so in terms of job hunting purposes, yes, social media has changed, because one of the things that's happened with social media is that employers can find out about you before they even shortlist you for interview, you know, and they can Google you, they can go on your Facebook, they can go on your LinkedIn, they can go on your Twitter, Instagram, whatever it is you have out there. No matter how private your settings, I believe that if you're not comfortable it being out there and falling into the wrong hands, then the best bet is to just don't post it in the first place. You know, things like that. So it's just, and I think, I can't remember what the exact percentage was, but it was something high. More than 80% of employers these days actually Google people before they offer them interviews or offer them a job, so they can find out what you're saying, what you're saying out there that you haven't told them on your CV. So it's really important, I think, that you take ownership of your social media and make it reflect your personal brand, because whether you believe it or not, you have a personal brand. We all have a personal brand. Some of us take the time to work on that and grow it and manage it. Others just leave it, and then your brand just happens to you. So I think it's important to be proactive and manage your personal brand by managing what you put out on social media, because chances are it will be found by an employer if they're looking for it. And you just have to make sure that what they find will enhance you as a candidate and not detract from you.
I mean, this is so true. And the one thing that I normally will say to people is also, like anything, you do a spring cleaning of your home, is to go back and spring clean your social media, especially if you're about to go for a new role or things like that. Spring clean your social media. Look for things that will make, that drunken picture from that night out. Maybe you may want to take that off.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. No, that's good advice. Constantly spring clean your social media, and yeah, I just think, just don't post it at all, really. I know, unfortunately, we do live in a society that's so PC these days. There's barely anything you can say publicly without someone having an opinion that's contrary to yours, and therefore, maybe even vilifying you or trolling you for it. So it's just better safe than sorry. Controversial subjects, if you can stay away from talking about it online, even better. Talk about it at the dinner parties with your friends in the flesh, know? Yeah, try not to do that stuff on social media, because you don't know whose eyes can see it without you knowing.
Exactly. And right now there's so many famous cases of people who have lost their jobs for things that they have said previously. But, let's also look at it from the perspective of, we're talking about how we, what we say can impact our jobs. However, there's also how we can build strong connections with using social media to reach out to potential employees, to employers and employees, vice versa, and actually make really good connections. Would you advise people to use social media in that way as well?
Yes, this is exactly how I advise people to use social media, alongside building your personal brand. And part of that is extending your connections. Now, this is why I love LinkedIn so much, because LinkedIn is so good for doing that. It's so good for, one, keeping track of the connections you already have. It's a nice place that brings it all together, so you can check in on them, etc., and see what they're up to via updates. But at the same time, it's a great way to make new connections within your field, within your interest groups, just to grow your network in that way. So I think that's a really, really great thing, because, again, in the old days, the good old days, no, they're not good old days, but in the days of horse and carriage.
In the days of Encarta before Google.
Yeah, absolutely. In those days, if you wanted to reach somebody, you had to really dig through the website, find a generic phone number, maybe go through a PR person or like a PA who doesn't want you to reach that person, so they'll make your life as difficult as possible. And then there's all these hoops you had to jump through. These days, you can find most CEOs, for example, on Twitter or on LinkedIn. Yes. You can access people directly. The barriers of access have gone down a lot, thanks to social media. So I think definitely any and everybody should be taking advantage of that, reaching out to people. I get people reach out to me on LinkedIn all the time, people I don't know, asking for help or advice or this, or most of the time I say yes if I've got time to do it. And it's the same with lots of other people. It's like lots of people these days, the access is easier now, so you can reach out to that person or those people and just say, hey, do you mind if can I have a bit of your time, or or even just to see what they're up to, so you can keep track. If it's maybe like a manager or a director and a company that you're interested in, you can keep track of them via social media. And then, when your opportunity comes, you'll be able to have something to say that's relevant to their lives because you've been keeping track with them on social media. So I think it's definitely something to not be ignored, making connections via social media.
Exactly. So, and this is me using my social media very well. And we're going to switch gears. Your social media shows you running and completing races. Are you an avid runner, and what has it done for you?
Running. This is it. I always blame my parents for this. I say this to them, partially to wind them up. But when I was younger, I actually used to, I was a sprinter. That was my thing. Yeah, I was a sprinter. I used to run, and I competed at amateur level. And to be honest, I could have gone further and done better. And I actually know a few people who went on to compete in athletics professionally, who I used to train with. So when I see them on TV, I say to my friends, look, that would have been me if it wasn't for you, But the reason, but it's actually my fault, because I used to go training, athletics training when I was younger. And because my parents were quite strict, but they let me go out to athletics training in the evening, I used to go training and then I go other places before I got home. So, as you do as a teenager, So by the time this happened a few times, I was eventually banned from going athletics training, and there ended my career. So yes.
Oh, Mildred.
Yeah. So there it was. You could have seen me on TV, running, but hey. But I do like running, but I'm a natural sprinter. Now, long distance races and anything over 200 meters is long distance for me. So in terms of my running background, so the 5K is something I started doing. I think it was it last year or the year before? No, it was the year before for my birthday, because I tried these days. What I try to do every year for my birthday is to do something new that I haven't done before.
Okay.
And yeah, the year before for my birthday, I thought, okay, right, let me do a 5K race. Because again, my husband is into running, as I said, he's into fitness, so he's done 10Ks and 5Ks. I was like, okay, let me do my first one. And I did my first one on just a day after my birthday. I think it was 2 years ago, and I really liked it. So for the year after, so last year I set myself a target to do 12,
wow.
One a month. Yeah, it sounds impressive, but I didn't succeed. So I did about 6 last year, but in total I've done 10 5K runs. So but this is over about 18-month period. So I like it, but I am not. I do it for fitness, but I also do it because it challenges me each time I do it. Challenges me out of my comfort zone, because my comfort zone is short runs. Okay. I can do short, quick runs, but anything longer than that really takes it out of me. But
Right.
then but as I'm getting older, I realized that the things that were natural to you, like you're just naturally fit or you're naturally this, you have to now work harder to maintain. So exercise is part of my life, I don't love it, but I need to do it and I like it when I do it. But after I'm done, I don't want to do it again until the next time. So, so, but yeah, the 5Ks are probably, I'm aiming to do at least one a month. That's my plan.
That
To
is
do
pretty
one a
impressive. Wow.
month. Yeah, well, one day my big goal is I'm working up to a 10K, which is nothing, but to me, is a massive goal. It's a really big goal. So one day soon.
I love the way you downplay that. Like, yeah, 10K, yeah, that's nothing really. Girl, please, if I did 10K, I would need an ambulance.
But it's not a 10K. It's not even a half marathon. So I'm like, when I tell people, I'm just like, I can just about do a 10K. Don't talk to me about half marathons, let alone a full marathon. I don't know how
Yeah.
people do it. Honestly, I have big respect for marathon runners.
I do. I do.
Yeah.
So running is one of your things. Okay. And we're going to come back to the running thing because I just love the way you downplayed it. Now, we talked about the fact that you're an author. You have 2 books out. One of them I actually have here is is your first book. The book I actually want to talk about is your brand new book, which is the book, The Science of Successful Job Hunting. And you talk about how to make recruitment agencies your allies. Does networking play a part of this?
It does, but just a small correction on that. So the my first book, 7 Keys to Winning CV, that one came out in 2011.
Right.
So the second one, which is the one you're talking about, Science of Successful Job Hunting, was 2014.
Apologies.
So yeah, no worries, no. But then my newest book is a complete departure from that. And that
Oh
came
yeah,
out
we're
last
gonna
year.
we're gonna
Yeah,
talk
yeah.
about that one. We have that one scheduled to talk about.
Okay. So that's the thing. But going back to that one, so Science of Successful Job Hunting. So recruiters, making them your allies. Yes, is definitely one of the ways you can tap the hidden job market, is what I talk about in the book. So, and yes, through connections, again, recruiters are all over LinkedIn. You can connect with them on LinkedIn. You can see their post jobs vacancies, but you can build relationships with them via LinkedIn, and other places, of course. But I'm just saying LinkedIn because LinkedIn makes things a lot easier. So yeah, definitely get them on board on your side, and good recruiters can help you access roles that are not advertised publicly, so they can help you get in there first, before it goes out. Sometimes it doesn't even go out because the vast majority of jobs are secured through the hidden job market, i.e. it's not advertised publicly
Right.
before people get them. So yeah, recruitment agencies are good allies.
Okay. And the one thing that anyone who's currently in the job market will know or have seen is something called the ATS. Can you briefly explain what it's the application tracking system is and what it does?
Yeah, sure. So the application tracking system is really is what you, so when you're submitting your CV on a website, like, I don't know, one of these job websites, you're putting it there. Before it actually gets to a human being, it goes through a robot. This is my easy way of explaining it. So, and that robot is the ATS, the software application. So this system sifts through thousands and thousands of CVs looking for particular buzzwords, keywords that are relating to the job description. So this is why some people, they'll submit CVs which are packed full of just, keywords, just so it can get through that system. So a CV that you use for one of these type of systems is different for the kind of CV you use if you're applying for a job, for example, and you're going through a HR company where it's read by real humans.
Right.
But usually the applicant tracking system is the first step in the process of sifting candidates, and it's used mainly by bigger organizations who can get thousands of CVs for every job that they're advertising. So it's a quick and efficient way for them to just first get rid of the ones who are not meeting the certain criteria of the program, and then after that it's shortlisted and then a real human can sift it before it goes down even further to being shortlisted for interview stage.
Okay, and then what do we need to do to create a CV that would get past the ATS? How should we phrase our CVs for it to pass the mustard?
So really, what you need to do with your CV is to make sure the first key with CVs, a successful CV, winning CV writing, really is to make sure that your CV is targeted to the kind of jobs that you're going for, and certainly to your industry. And when it's targeted, it means that, for example, so if you're working in a media and you're going for media jobs, you need to make sure that the keywords in your CV are related to the media. So, for example, if I use the journalism thing that we mentioned earlier, so my CV will need to have things like editing, writing, maybe sub-editing, communication, like all of these words which are relevant in that field needs to appear on my CV, but preferably multiple times, so that it can then be picked up by the applicant tracking system to say, okay, yep, this person, has got, editing written 5 times, and this job requires somebody who's good at editing. So this candidate is a good fit. So let's shortlist them for the next stage. So really, it's important that you read the job application and you read and you look at and also use the kind of words, the kind of language that they use in the application forms. I mean, in the application, the job adverts, use that kind of language on your CV, because then it's, it's you're speaking the same language basically. So it makes it easier to shortlist you for these jobs.
Okay. And so looking at your history was you'd seen a lot of really bad CVs. What is the core thing you wish people knew about presenting their CVs today?
I wish, because the funny thing is, as I said, I've been doing this for over a decade and the problems are still here.
Wow.
So yeah, it's literally still here today. I'm still seeing CVs whereby people are making the same mistakes. For example, generic CVs that are not tailored to the kind of jobs you're going for. And then a lot of people undersell themselves on CV. CV is not the place to be humble. It's right. You don't want to brag and be arrogant, but you have to highlight your skills, your achievements. You have basically the onus is on you to prove that you're a good fit for the kind of jobs that you're going for. So you need to make it as easy for the employer to figure this out as possible. And you do that by how you phrase your CV, the kind of way you talk about the achievements that you've done in your previous roles, and also how it looks is important as well. Your CV can't, you can have all this good content, but if you fall down on the formatting and the layout and things like that, it just makes it not nice to read. Your CV is likely to get scrapped as well. So I want people to know that with your CV, you've got this, as the saying goes, you only have one chance to make a good first impression. This is your one chance to make a good first impression. So whatever you need to do to make sure that CV is ship shape and it's in top form and it's great, do it.
Okay, and that's very sound advice, because I think we have to give ourselves the opportunity to really present ourselves well. And you're up against hundreds of candidates. Recruiters get bored reading. They want something that stands out to them.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, yeah, they do. And you want yours to be that one that stands out.
Exactly. So do you recommend being more specific on CVs or staying generalized for broad industries?
Definitely specific. Definitely. So my general rule is, so with your CV, you specialize, you target it towards the industry and the field that you're going for within that industry. So for example, if you're a business analyst, so even if you're looking for jobs that are a little bit departed. So like business analyst, project management type of jobs, roughly you can use the same CV for them and draw out different experiences from your background, but it's really targeting your CV to the kind of jobs that you want within your industry. So if you're looking for jobs in two completely different industries, for example, in accounting and in retail, then you need two completely different CVs, so which are tailored to each one. So generic CVs do not work. They do not work. But you can be generic to the industry in terms of you're tailoring your CV towards these type of jobs.
Right.
Yes, that's the only way that you can be generic. But then when it comes to the cover letter, you must be specific to a job. So CV is this type of job. Cover letter is a specific job.
Right. Okay. And, we opened our interview talking about your career change. And if we focus on career changes, how does one start again and enter a new industry if they've come from a totally different background?
That is a question that I get often. I actually wrote a blog about this a long time ago somewhere on. So if we connect on LinkedIn, you can find it somewhere on my LinkedIn articles. But so when you're switching to a new industry, the key thing is really to look at the transferable skills that you have that you're going to bring over with you. And again, the way you structure your CV, if you structure it in a skills-based CV where the format is essentially like this: you have your profile at the top, and then you have your areas of expertise, and you have your key skills, and these three sections come before you get into your career history. So before you even mention your career history, you've already identified your crossover skills.
Right.
So beforehand. So really, for somebody who's changing career, you need to A, make sure you have this type of CV, but B, really look at the transferable skills that you have from the industry that you're in and the industry that you're going into. And if you need to go in at a slightly lower level so you can learn the ropes and then work your way up, that's acceptable too. You may find that you may need to retrain in some elements,
right,
as well. So again, for me, I crossed over from journalism to communications. They're quite similar fields, but so it wasn't as hard a shift to make. But I did have to, in the crossover, I went down a little bit lower, so I can learn a bit more and then come back up again. So
right.
So it's really looking at what you need. And again, you can find this out by talking to people who are in the field that you want to go into. Look at what kind of things do I need to demonstrate on my CV to show that I'm a good fit for this, even though my career background isn't in the same pathway. So I would look at those things, but your transferable skills is definitely an important point to highlight when you're switching careers.
Okay, and so we've spoken about those who are switching careers who've had wealth of experience. For younger, less experienced people, what are some of the ways that they can mitigate their lack of work experience to make themselves seem like a viable option for the job market?
This is where your extracurricular activities come into play. So, and also for adults as well. So it's not just the experience that you have. It's not just what you're paid for that's valid. So I've worked with clients who've neglected things that they've done on a voluntary basis because they just thought it's not a paid job, therefore it doesn't count. It absolutely does count. So if you're doing anything on a voluntary level, or if you've done any courses, or if you've led, if you're a young person and you've led programs at university, for example, or within your peer network, or you've a lot of the time, young people these days are busy doing things, maybe even on social media. Some of them have massive Instagram followings, for example. Yep. So it's really channeling the extracurricular activities that you do outside of the immediate work environment and talking about this in a way that benefits your job prospects. So look at everything. Everything counts. Church, membership, if you're involved actively in a church or your mosque or something like that where you have a role, talk about it on your CV. So don't leave anything out, because it could all potentially be important in helping to build your experience profile.
Okay. And I think that's a good reminder, because sometimes we discount and disqualify a lot of our skills because, well, it's not formal, or I did this on the side, and we don't include that in our CV for our professional roles.
Yeah, this is it. And so many people do that. Like, as I said, I've worked with so many people who've done that. And it's just, this is why it's good also to get a fresh pair of eyes on your CV, or even not on your CV, just to talk to somebody outside of yourself about your career and your objectives, and then see, because sometimes other people can see what you can't see. They can, what to you is just, I just have a YouTube channel where, for example, I know some young people who do these gaming things where, you have a YouTube channel and they're playing games and people are watching them play games. I'm like, oh my gosh, why are people watching you play games? But it's a thing, but that thing is something that could go on their CV. But to a young person like that, they may not see that as a thing. They might just see it as something they're doing as for leisure, or as a hobby, or just some side activity. But it's really recognizing that, yeah, all of those things count, and they're all valid towards helping. And it helps to paint a broader picture of you as well outside of the work environment. So we're not all just work robots who all we do is work and go home. A lot of people these days actually have side hustles. So, which is important to mention on your CV in a non-threatening way. Not key, non-threatening way.
Wait, Mildred. How is a side hustle threatening? Let's find out, because so we know.
So unfortunately, some employers might look at it and think, well, if you've got this thing going on, it means that you can't fully commit yourself 100% to this job. Therefore,
okay.
Yeah, they're threatened by that, so, or if you've got something that maybe in a similar field, maybe you're doing you're a consultant, self-employed, but you're also looking for consultancy type roles. Mm-hmm. They might think there's a conflict of interest. So,
right, okay, I'm with you now, because
so yeah, without, some employers have delicate egos. We must massage. Yeah.
Okay, and speaking of others, people with side hustles, you are a prolific person, because you also are involved in something called the Salmon Youth Center.
Yes, that one is actually, I work for Salmon. I'm part-time. I manage their communications there they're a fantastic youth organization based in Bermondsey, East London. So yeah, that is something that I do alongside, funnily enough, and again, this is a job tip as well. So I actually, when I started this role, I was meant to be a maternity cover for just 6 months.
Right.
Because at the time I was doing, I had fully gone self-employed for my last job. And I thought, I'm never working for anyone else again. How wrong was I? But, that's another conversation. So, and I ended up at Salmon, and I thought, okay, I'm going to be here for 6 months, help them get this communication thing going. Then I'm going to be back doing my own thing as an entrepreneur. And yeah, let's just say next month marks 7 years that I've been at Salmon Youth Center,
Wow.
7 years, because along the way I fell in love with their mission and their vision, but also because, and this is what is really good about employers who are not threatened by your side hustle, and Salmon is such a one, because I can fully do what I do outside of Salmon and they know that the minute I'm in there, I'm there and I'm focused and I'm there for Salmon, but outside I have my own business, and I have all these other things that I do. So there's no conflict there. In fact, what I do outside of work helps to feed into the work that I do within work, which is really good. So it's a good place to be in, which is why I stayed so long as well.
I can imagine that it must be very rewarding, and they must be very lucky to have you.
Oh, thank you. And likewise, I've learned a lot being there. It wasn't my natural choice. I didn't think, I love young people, but I didn't think working in a youth organization would be something that I would do. But as life turns out, it has been a great experience. And yeah, you get to see young people in a different light, and just having a bit of an impact in their lives in that way has been, through the work that I do, has been really rewarding. Yes.
Amazing. So we've come to that point in the show where we talk about our so loud moment of the week, where we celebrate a person, a thing, something that's happened for you that, yes, you want to give a virtual shout out and clap to. So, Mildred, what is your so loud moment of the week?
Oh God, of this week.
It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be this week. It can be last week. It can be last month. It's just so loud moment.
Oh, okay. Something I want to give a shout out to.
Yes.
Oh God, I should have thought this through a bit more. And you did warn me to as well. Do you know what? I'm gonna give a so loud shout out to Salmon, because we've just talking about it, to Salmon Youth Centre, simply because employers, and this is a struggle for a lot of women. I'm a working mum, I have two young ones as well. So some employers are not flexible when it comes to women returning to work after maternity leave, etc. And there's a lot of ignorance around, what you can achieve on a part-time basis as well. But Salmon is an organization which has really just embraced, not just myself, but other men and women, parents at our workplace, and really kind of created a flexible working culture that is working for everybody. So, and I really think more employers need to follow suit in that way, and just realize that actually, even if it's not just for parents, but just the flexible working, because other staff members benefit from it. Actually, work doesn't always have to be done 9 to 5 in a box that is an office in a particular location. Work can be flexible, especially with the whole technology that we have these days. You can be on a beach in the middle of a holiday and do work, so it's just, so yeah, my shout out is to Salmon and organizations like that who are recognizing that flexible working is not just the future. I think it's the now, and it needs to be more of the now for everybody who needs it.
Awesome. Let's give a huge round of applause to Salmon for the work that they do.
Woo, 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 woo.
Hey!
Yeah, I hope they're listening to this, Salmon. And can I have my pay rise, please?
So you oh, Mildred, you're funny. You're killing me. So Salmon, yes, she'll like her pay rise, and send her the extra check for the shout out. We mentioned your brand new book, which is a total departure from your business books, because that is a book aimed at little ones, and it's a book for young children. What was the defining moment that inspired my little book of I Ams?
Yeah, so my little book of I Ams, it came out in September 2018, but it was actually about a year in the making. And what inspired it was I have two young daughters. One, the oldest is 4, and the younger one is almost 3.
Right.
So, but when my older daughters moved to a new nursery, I remember when I used to pick her up from nursery, and the staff used to really say things. There wasn't bad things at all, but she's more reserved. Let's just put it that way. But it would be like, oh, she's just so quiet. Oh, she just needs to speak up a bit more. Oh, just, there's lots of, and, and they kept saying things about my daughter that I wasn't that comfortable with, because I'm a huge believer in the power of words, and the power of words that are spoken, that you speak to yourself and that are spoken over you, can make an impact, on your life. And I wasn't comfortable hearing this time and time again. And I remember I was just, one time I was just like, it was upsetting me. And I kind of, I don't know whatever anybody else's faith is. And for me, prayer is one of my escape routes, when it gets a bit much. And I prayed about it, And I just felt like this peace inside that just said to me, do you know what you need to do is make sure between you and your husband that your daughters are insulated on the inside, so that whatever else happens on the outside won't stick to them. I'm not explaining it as well as it was said to, but it's just the whole idea of if as we fill them with positive words and make sure that they're affirmed in their identity and who they are, then it's harder for what other people say about them outside of the house to make a lasting impact.
Yeah.
So if that makes sense. And that's where I thought, oh, okay, so I'm going to start, going through these with them. I am this, I am. So the I ams in the book are 10 I ams, and I am unique. There's only one me in the whole wide world. I am wealthy. I am healthy. So there's all these things. Mm-hmm. And I thought, okay, I'm going to put this into a book for the girls so I can read it at bedtime with them, and we can read it every day. And literally my aim was just to write a book for my girls, and I had to have little girls that look like them on there, because again, that's as a side note, children's books are not very representative in terms of the characters and diversity wise. So I wanted a book with 2 little girls that look like my daughters, that they could relate to and they can have, and they can look at it and see themselves literally, and also hear these words spoken about them. And then one day when they're able to read it to themselves as well. Right. So and that's where the idea came from. And I partnered with an illustrator called Nicola Lesper. She's an excellent illustrator that specializes in images of diverse images of women, with natural beauty. So we partnered together. She did the illustrations and I did the content, and then that's how we got the book out. And the response to the book was a whole lot more than I had anticipated. People love the books, they love the affirmations. They're using it for their young people. I've been told that, wow, this is a great gap in the market kind of thing. And
right.
And it's just great. But for me, and I've gone into a few nurseries, including my daughter's ones, to do reading, but just to sit there and read, after I've read the book to the kids, I get them to repeat the affirmations with me out loud. And I've sat there in rooms with like 40, 50 kids shouting out, I am unique. There's only one me in the whole wide world. I am healthy. I am wealthy. I am a giver. Like all these things. Honestly, it just warms my heart so much. I'm like, wow, this is amazing. This is beyond what I thought could have happened with this book. So yeah, it has a special place in my heart. One, because it's for my girls, but also because I want children to grow up with a strong, positive identity, because there's so much that's going to knock you in life. Unfortunately, there's so much that people might say about you that it's just, but if you have that, at least in the initial forming stages of your life, you have that identity set, in terms of how you feel about yourself, then it kind of gives you a bit of an umbrella in the rain, is the way I see it.
Okay, and that's very beautiful. So with everything that you do, with the motherhood, your businesses, your relationship, how do you balance all of this?
I get that the whole balance thing is such a big topic, isn't it? But
it is.
It really is work-life balance. I would put it like this. There's a few things. One, for me, there's 3 things that center me. One of them is my faith, and that definitely, like, my faith in, I'm a Christian, my faith in Jesus, that's above everything else. That helps me to find a central balance in life. Secondly, I honestly have an amazing husband who is a partner in this walk. He's been changing nappies from the day the kids were born. Do you understand? They're more likely, they're likely to wake up in the middle of the night call for either of us. So we're both very active in terms of the parenting, and also we both work part-time around, so we share the responsibilities, not equally, because you can't do it equally, but sometimes one might be doing more, sometimes the other, but it balances itself out. Right. And then also for myself, I like to have, so I schedule my week, and I like to have at least 3 to 4 times a week I have me time. So once the kids have gone to bed, it's me sitting down with my cup of tea and a bit of mine is crackers with a bit of butter in it, I know I'm like a granny when it comes to my snacks, but I sit down with my cup of tea and my crackers and I'm watching some murder mystery or some TV drama and I'm just being Mildred and I'm relaxing and I love it.
Awesome.
So that's important to have that balance of you can balance in all the different roles you have. You still need your time to be you and have your switch off time, so that helps. But there are some seasons when it's more chaotic than others, and I've got loads of client works and some things hit and miss there. So I think it's a myth to pursue balance all the time, but you can have something that works all the time. Just put in elements that you need to have on a regular basis to make you. I think that I find that that's what works best for me.
I like that, and it's like you said, it's not about balance; it's about what works best for you and your family. Now, one of the things I know about you, Mildred, is that you are an avid reader, and you had at one point you were aiming to read a book a month over the year. So, what would you say? What has been your favorite book from this year so far that you've read?
That I actually still read a book a month. That I've been doing for about 6 years now. So, yes, my favorite book, I'm going to cheat a little bit because it was at the end of last year that I finished reading it. And it just crept over into this new year. No, you know what? I'm going to pick two. So I'm going to pick the cheat book is Michelle Obama's Becoming, which I thought was amazing. And the other one is a surprise entry, and that's Kevin Hart's autobiography. You Can't Make This Up.
Okay.
Yeah, it was just so interesting and funny. He swears like a trooper, just exactly as he is in real life. But his autobiography is totally one of the best that I've read, and I really enjoyed reading that. So I think those are this year, my aim is to read more autobiographies and memoirs, less of the personal development stuff. So yeah, those two are high on my list.
Okay. I have my Becoming. I haven't started Becoming because I have some other books that I'm going to finish first, and I've promised not to buy more books than I can read because you know how that happens. You're like, oh yeah, let me just get this book and this book, and before you know it, you have like 6 books waiting to be read. Go and read me, please.
Yes, I've been there. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I've got 2 at the moment I've got one that I'm about parenting that I'm reading. I haven't finished reading it, but then I saw this other book about telling effective stories for communications. I thought, I quite like that book, so I ordered that, and that's coming tomorrow. So I'm like, I haven't finished the other one, but well.
just out of curiosity, who wrote that book, the one about effective stories?
It is. It's a guy called Rob something. Let me check my Amazon.
Don't worry. Send it to me later.
Yes. Yeah. Rob something. Yeah, I'll send it to you later. Yeah, definitely. So yeah, but that sounds like it'll be a good read. So I'm looking forward to it.
Okay, so, and this is really amazing because the thing about books, I think it gives us room to grow. And like you said, you are creating books that create representation, and that's very, very powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. I love books. It's like having a mentor in your pocket. That's the thing. You can just carry it around. I've learned and I've grown so much through reading over the years. So if only they teach you this in school so that most kids won't grow up hating to read. But actually, I was that nerdy kid who loved to read. So I must admit, from the beginning, you would find me in a library reading. I enjoyed it. So, but a lot of kids didn't because they just don't teach you that books are useful for things other than forcing you to do essays that you don't want to do.
I love books. I've loved my books right from childhood, and yes, the library in my school when I was a kid was my hiding place, and I got locked in my library twice.
Wow! You are definitely a bookworm.
So I've just had a listener come in, and they go, "Could you please give the name of the parenting book?"
Oh, the one that I'm currently reading. It is
Yes.
called Homegrown Heroes. Raising Courageous Kids by Tim Kimmel, Kimmel. I could be spelling that wrong. Kimmel, I think it is. Tim Kimmel.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
So we'll Google that. So I like that. Raising homegrown heroes.
Yes.
Yeah, that sounds very powerful.
Yeah, it's about teaching kids courage, and courage is something that, as the guy talks about in the book, that will really get them through a lot of tough situations in life. So I thought, that sounds good. I want some courage in my kids. So yeah, why not?
Exactly. So, how do you personally bounce back from setbacks?
Bounce back from setbacks. I love a good cry. You know, definitely. And I recommend a good cry for airing out your system. You know, so yeah, and oh God, I've had setbacks. So it's just, I guess for me, definitely I let it out. For me, again, I go back to my faith is a key thing. I go back in prayer, and I'm like, oh God, and I moan to God and say, oh my gosh, what's happened, and etc. You know, I talk to my husband, and also I give myself the space to bounce back, if that makes sense. Sometimes
Yes.
you don't know you're doing it. I'm not consciously saying I'm going to give myself space to bounce back, but I will take as long as I need to bounce back, because it's better for me to come back fully than to come back partially and then have to be knocked down again because you're not fully there yet. So I think it's just giving myself that space to bounce back, tapping into my faith, tapping into the resources around me, and just, yeah, letting going through the process, really.
Okay. And that's important. I think that you just touched on something that's very, very key that we need to put up in places, that we need the space to bounce back, and we need that space because if not, we're then easier to topple over if we're not yet ready. And I think that is so key and so important.
Absolutely. Even something like bouncing back physically from giving birth to two kids, and wanting your body restored. Is I thought, oh, okay, within a year, I want to have a flat stomach again. I want to shift all this weight. No, like 3 years later, we're still struggling, so it's like, so even things like that it's easy to beat yourself up on. What I used to do really, really a lot before that I'm so much better at now, is I used to have deadlines because I'm quite goal oriented and results driven. So I'm like, okay, by the time I'm 30, this, by this time, this, by this time, this. And I had a lot of things that did not meet my deadlines, and that knocked me a lot, in the beginning. But I've now learned to not put timelines and stuff. I'm not talking about specific goals as such, but just kind of I found that a lot of my disappointments came from wanting to be at a certain place by a certain time, which
Right.
often were unrealistic expectations, and then so a lot of it I was bringing onto myself. The setbacks I was experiencing was based on my unrealistic expectations, but I didn't see it like that at the time. I just thought, oh well, I'm making good goals. But there's making good goals, and then there's making unrealistic goals, which is setting you up for failure. So it's just I've gotten cleverer at knowing the difference between the two.
Okay. And that's very powerful. So, you're not saying don't have goals with specific deadlines, but you're saying don't make those arbitrary red line goals red line deadlines that say if you haven't done X, Y, and Z by this, then throw everything away. That's not what you're saying.
Absolutely, and often if you haven't done this by this, then you are a failure, is ultimately what you're saying to yourself without saying it like that. So it's learning to be a lot kinder and a lot lenient, when it comes to those goals. So definitely have goals, but leave some room in your goals for life to happen is
Right.
what I've learned, because guess what? Life does happen, and it will happen.
Oh, yes. Mildred, thank you so much for being on the show. I have just a couple more questions for you. So one of them is, how can people get in contact with you? How can people connect with you?
Oh, social media. Yeah, absolutely. I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Facebook, and and I'm on Instagram. Actually, I prefer LinkedIn and Instagram because I've been shutting off my Facebook. That's another long story. But yeah, so you can reach out to me via LinkedIn and Instagram. You can do on Twitter, but I'm not there as often. So if you don't get a response, it's not because I'm ignoring you, it's because I'm not there as often as these other two platforms. And of course, I do have a website. So my business one is for my speaking, etc. is mildredtalabi.com. And then for CV makeovers is cvmakeoverexpert.com.
Okay. And last question. My production assistant begged me to ask, what inspired a Londoner to move way out to Kent?
Do you want the cold, hard truth?
We will not have it any other way. We need the truth. We can handle the truth.
Because I actually thought I was going to be a Londoner for life. But honestly, when it comes to space and what you can get for your money, nowhere beats Kent. Well, actually, other places beat Kent. But London is a rip-off. You know, you can get a box in London for what you can get a proper grown-up house in Kent. So that's what led us outside of London, because when we had our first kid in our little flat and we needed more room. And yeah, when it came to looking at where could we move to in London, it's just everything was ridiculous. And then when we looked further outside the boundaries, it's like, this is the promised land and there's lots of clean air, and we have lakes near us, which we never had in London. Win-win, Okay. Yeah, so yeah, that's all it was, but it's a great move. We're not coming back to London anytime, ever.
Yeah, but you're not that far out of London. It's not like you're in Peterborough, for example, or Milton Keynes.
That's it. We're actually not that far. Funnily enough, when I get to work in South London from Kent, when there's no traffic, in about 32 minutes door to door.
Wow.
When I used to live in Southwest London, to get to Southeast London took me an hour and 10 minutes on a good day.
Girl, please stop. I know that struggle deeply and well. I've met people in central London. I live southwest. They've come out from Woking and gotten to central London before me and gone, but you're living in London. I'm like, just stop talking. Just leave me alone and stop talking.
Absolutely. London is not, it's just traffic junction, the whole city. So we're not still far. So we've got the best of both worlds. We're close enough to be Londoners, beach mark. But yeah, we're is it Kentonians they're called? I don't know what the official name is.
Okay, Kentonians. Okay, on that note, we're going to say, Mildred, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show.
And likewise, thank you so much for having me. I enjoyed our discussion.
Same here. So, guys, it's a wrap. Connect with Mildred if you want to have that quality CV that you're going to put in front of your next employer that will make them see you as the one. Understand how you can market and sell yourself and put your best foot forward. Get her books. And if you are a mompreneur, or even not a mompreneur, just a mom, a dad, a parent, get the I Am books for your little ones as well. Stop by mildredtalabi.com and find out more about this really amazing, engaging woman. And join us same time, same place next week. Mildred, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Lillian. It's been a pleasure talking to you too.
Same here. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Show. If you want to connect with us or let us know what you thought of today's show, be sure to follow us on Twitter @ShineOutShow.